As I've said before, it's incredibly important in today's day and age to obtain retainers. But how can you obtain them? What are the different things that you need to sell a client on in order to gain their trust, to get into the retainer discussion, and ultimately present the case for why you want to be retained? First things first, before you get into the whys, you need to first illustrate your expertise by having a very good discussion regarding the job specifications, regarding the client's past experiences with other recruiters. You'll use that later. You can certainly use that experience to contrast with what you're about to do. Just in general, get to build that rapport. Try to throw in some jokes. Try to get familiar with the client. If you can, pitch a meeting. I would love to meet you and go through more. I'd love to set up a Zoom call after this to really put the name to the face and be able to describe you to my candidates. That's what I love doing. All of these are good sort of warming them up preparation steps that when you go in for your sale, when you go in for your close, essentially pitching retainers and being retained, that you'll have a better degree of success. And again, just know that the majority of your retained pitches will be rejected because not every client has the ability to just try retain with someone they've never worked with before. Certainly, if you've already worked with a client, you should be pitching them retainers from day one so that once you do start doing business with them, you can make a very clear case for your basics expectations of being retained, which is my first tip. You should always let your client network know that you really just only work on retained. That's your default. Whether or not that's true, whether or not that this is part of the whole fake it till you make it, you just need to explain to them, I am retained. I prefer to be retained. If you don't act as if, you're not going to get retainers because no one's going to be the chump that is the only one that retained you by accident. That's not how sales work. You got to start off with what you're really looking for, and then work your way down if that doesn't work out. Be fearless, act as if. I, by default, work with clients that retain me. That is how I like to do business. And that is how I set the stage with every one of my clients. And explain to them, obviously, how it works. And you have your own retainer structure, whether it's a 2 or 3 part retainer in terms of when those pieces get paid out. All of that you can discuss too. But in terms of more reasons why a client should retain you, not only is it your basic sort of expectation that you are retained because it's only fair that you are, paid for your work and appreciated and have that mutual commitment. The number 2 thing you want to talk about is we're a niche recruitment firm that specifically helps with this type of placement, right? Because we're a niche firm, we're constantly going after these people. And that's why you have to retain us, because otherwise I'm just not going to give those people to you at all. I have a lively book of clients, and that's who I go to first. Those are the first people that get my profiles. If you don't retain me, you won't even see the light of day of these profiles. They're not going to come through your inbox because I'm not retained by you. I have no loyalty. You haven't purchased my loyalty. You haven't purchased my service. So you're not going to get this profile. This is very typical for highly candidate-driven markets, which I argue is the only type of market that recruiters should be functioning in. If a candidate market is not tight, you don't want to even be servicing that niche because your job will be so difficult to actually make money. Again, side tangent, back to this point, I'm a niche recruitment business and I really need to be retained so that you can even be included when I get these people. This candidate market is very dry. It's really hard to find these people. And when I do, unfortunately, I don't just dish them out to the first person that comes up into my mind. They go to my clients, and my clients are the people who retain me. So if you don't retain me, unfortunately, you're going to be waiting a while to see any resumes because I don't have to give them to you. I have lots of buyers as is. So that's the second point that you can give them. Number 3, what you're getting. Now, this is dependent on what you actually offer as part of your service, right? Do you provide video montages of you explaining the role and promoting it on a marketing platform? Do you put out all these job ads across all these different portals? That might be appealing. Do you create some really beautiful visuals that you'll tell your client, hey, we'll make sure you're featured prominently on our website? Again, most recruitment companies aren't very advanced in this space in terms of marketing prowess. Nobody really has good marketing. They're just very manual. They call people up, which again, you can talk about what you're getting. You're getting a resourcer assigned to you. I'm going to have a full-time junior recruiter working the role. Their job with me is to do a full market map. And then we're constantly reaching out to every single candidate for you. And then ultimately, this is what you can also sell, number 4, which is you'll have a 2 week exclusivity period on anybody that we turn up in the next 2 weeks. That's what you get as part of the retained service. And that should pretty much cover the search, right? If my team and I are hustling for the next 2 weeks and we're market mapping, we're reaching out to every single person and their associates, going through all of our connections, we're going to find you people in 2 weeks. I mean, literally, you're retaining us. You're getting our time for those 2 weeks. And that's how we're going to be able to help you fill the search. Now, these are all the different reasons that you can very reasonably explain to your client why you need to be retained, why you want to be retained, and how ultimately it benefits the client in terms of closing out searches really quickly. Ultimately, you have to be able to deliver. If you don't, you shouldn't even be pitching retainers, because you're just landing yourself in a heap of trouble and pain. And I just really want to, again, caution you. And that's why at the end of the day, recruitment still is all about hard work. If you pitch for retained and you don't got profiles coming in for the first 2-3 weeks, that's pretty crappy. That's not a good retainer service. So unless you really can take on a search and truly deliver on it, you don't even want to pitch it. And then also, ironically, in certain candidate markets that are very, very dry, pitching retained might even be a problem for your business. Because let's say the client is so difficult that nobody wants to interview with them, which is why, ironically, they're retaining you, because it's such a difficult search because no one wants to work there. So then you're stuck with a C job that is expecting A talent. And that's really, really hard to juggle. So be careful and be very diligent on who you offer retain to, how you're going to pitch it, so that you don't have mismatching expectations and then land yourself with a disgruntled customer who's going to give you mental angst. I hope this was helpful, and definitely reach out to network. I'd love to hear from you on what works in terms of providing a very value add service in terms of being retained.